And all right, we'll kick off. So my name is Corey Smith, and I'll be hosting again tonight. As you can see, I've got my Inglis cap on because of the upcoming Inglis sales. But this one is actually for Magic Millions, so I've got the spray jacket on as well, just to hedge my bets there. But welcome along to the Griffith de Kock January webinar. This one's a special one because the first sale has now been and gone. We bought 9 yearlings there, ended up with 10 yearlings coming to the yard from that sale, and pretty successful. You've got Robbie and Matt, who everyone already knows, and obviously Jack also as part of the sales team. So welcome, guys.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
And firstly, Robbie, I guess Magic Millions. So we went there looking to get probably 1 or 2. We did the work. We're going to go into that in a second, but yeah, pretty successful sale from the stables perspective.
Yeah, very successful, Corey, because it's always a difficult sale to buy from because we wouldn't compromise our physical type. And when you have a fussy eye like Matt and I have, that physical type is above average. And with the average being $260,000, to tick all those boxes and get value for money can be hard work. So for us to come home with horses that ticked all those boxes and got value for our owners, we were very, very happy. So we're delighted with what we've come home with. We've got a really good cross-section of very successful champion sires and some very young, exciting sires. And, and some of those sires come out and won the Magic Millions the next day with Shalar. So we're very, very happy with what we've got.
Yeah, and Matt, I guess, like I've got up on the screen there, everyone thinks about this glorious sail up on the Gold Coast, sitting on the beach, sipping pina coladas. But the reality for most groups that it's hard work and it's day and night. And with a large catalogue of 1,200 plus horses, how did you narrow down that shortlist?
Yeah, Corey, it was a good experience for me. It was probably the hardest I've ever worked at a sale. We set about our ways during the week, looking at all the horses, and halfway through the inspections, we realized we're not going to get this done. So we had Peter Ford, who's been Robbie's bloodstock agent for years with us, and Joey Ramsden, who's a successful South African trainer. He's won about 30 Group 1s in South Africa and always has a good horse in his yard every year. He's got a keen eye. They were with us on our team. So we split up. The two of them went one way. Me and Robbie went another. We managed to look through all the horses, and then we met up again with our short lists, and then went around for round 2, all 4 of us together, looking at the short list and knocking the horses off. It was a very big team effort, and I think it was successful.
Yeah, and I guess obviously Jack, some late nights there for the staff in general. So most of the time the boys would finish fairly late with their shortlists. And then for us, it was then collating them, making sure we kept our owners who were involved up to date, and all of that ready for the next day where they're up bright and early and inspecting yearlings once again. And that was continuous for the whole time we were there. So I guess from our perspective looking on, how did you see the teamwork of the boys?
I thought it was excellent. Obviously, both boys have different types, which is excellent for the team going forward. And, they look at different things and they see different things, so they don't miss much. And it's all positive. So it's just outstanding, and we're really happy with the horses we've come away with, Corey. So,
yeah. And Robbie, I guess how late do you work? And I mean, it's not just how late you work, because the stable's still going in Melbourne at Cranbourne. It's still going when you're on the Gold Coast. So firstly, how late do you work up there? And then how does the stable keep ticking over while you're away?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. That the hours can be up to a 20-hour day, because you start work early in the morning, because the WhatsApp videos start coming through at 2:30 a.m. Queensland time, because our staff at home start at 3:30 a.m. Melbourne time. So we start getting WhatsApp, trot up videos and how the horses have eaten and their appetites and well-being from when the staff start in the morning. So we start getting that type of correspondence through to our phones when we're interstate or wherever we are at any yearling sale. So that happens when Matt and I are away. So that type of correspondence starts to communicate between the stable and wherever we are, and in this case at the Gold Coast. So with the hour difference, that's how the morning starts. And then So then we have that correspondence back and forth. And then we do our sort of communication between our Melbourne-based stables, and then we get into the workload sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, looking at horses all day long. And you do that till 4 o'clock when the horses start to get a little bit tired. Then you sit down, as you can see in the picture on the left there, we're all on our laptops and looking at pedigrees and etc. So we start going through our pedigrees and shortlists, but then we communicate a lot of our communication back to our veterinary team to go through all the x-rays. So we get our shortlist in order there, because not all of them pass their vet test. And then quite often, owners that want to organise what they want to buy might want to go out for dinner to organise what are they buying and what lots are in order and so on. So you might, by the time you do all this and have a shower and clean up, it might be 9 o'clock at night, and then you sit down and have dinner. So quite often dinner isn't finished until 10:30, 11 or 12. So as you can imagine, it's a long day, and then 2:30 Queensland time, you're getting your WhatsApp videos coming through the next morning from your Melbourne-based stable. So it's quite a lengthy process and a long day, and exhausting day for the trainers and the team away from their Melbourne-based stables. But that's the process. But on the flip side, it's the most important part of a trainer's workload, because if you buy correctly, that's the most successful part of your operation. If you buy the right horse, you come back and win the race the next year, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I guess, Matt, we talked a lot about the process there, but it gets amped up even more, doesn't it, when the hammer actually drops and then the phones just start ringing, and you know we're on the phones, Robbie's on the phone. That it sort of just amps up. As soon as that hammer drops, it's like another gear every time. And I guess, how stressful is it when you're purchasing bloodstock at such amounts? Because although we purchase bloodstock at, I thought, great value compared to the averages and things like that, but it's still in a lot of money. So is it nerve-wracking when you're bidding on those horses?
Yeah, Corey, it's an intense period of time, and it definitely is nerve-wracking. But that's why you got to be very prepared, and you go into battle, into the auction with a budget, and when a horse comes in the ring, you got to value the horse. And then in the moment, you got to decide whether the horse is worth an extra bid or an extra 2 bids, or. But that's why it was great having like myself and Robbie sitting next to each other, because when we were bidding, we were just chatting to each other at the same time. It's good to have someone to bounce it off. Like, Robbie, what do you think? Think we should go another bid? Or nah, Matt, not worth it. We'll wait for one at Melbourne from the same sire. Or so if you're on your own, you can sometimes make a bad decision under pressure. But when you got two minds in the moment, someone with Robbie's experience, and my world experience as well, it was just great just to be able to bounce it off each other.
Yeah, and Robbie, I guess not meaning to sort of dwell on it, but I just read there, what did your sales team consist of and what roles? So we had a bit of a posse walking around.
Yep.
It was, the Griffith de Kock team was out in force, and we did have a large number of people, and everyone played their part. But I won't go into every role, but how exciting was that for you to see a sales, basically a stable team, as opposed to going up there, as some trainers do on their own?
Oh, I think it was fantastic, because I think it showed everyone how serious we are about buying the next winner for our stable supporters. It's about, we're proving to everyone that follows us, supports us, that we are absolutely 110% serious about buying the next Magic Millions champ at that sales. Now, we stick to budgets because that's the feedback we're getting from everyone that's joining the webinar. They're giving us that feedback. If we had an open checkbook, we would buy accordingly, but we're buying to budget, so we did that. But what it did do, that team spirit, that team showed everyone at every vendor, every person that was supporting us, how serious we are. We're leaving no stone unturned by having Joey, Peter go one way, myself and Matt, and then as soon as the hammer went down, yourself, Jack, the girls, Sarah at home, everyone was answering all the emails, the text messages, the calls. We want a piece of this, we want a piece of that. All the people that were kind enough to support us on the webinar saying, we want to be part of this, we want to put in an order for that. So I think it's a big team effort, not just from all the guys walking around at the Magic Millions, but everyone on this webinar, you know, the people that are following us. And it shows that we're 100% fair income about buying the next winners.
Yeah, I guess speaking of the hammer dropping as well, I noticed I looked through the participant names and there's Steve Davis there. So I'm not sure if it is the guy that drops a hammer, Steve Davis, but I watched a webinar on him the other day, and obviously he's exceptional at his job, and so are all the auctioneers at the Magic Millions. And it's such an exciting, I guess, an exciting sale to be a part of. But Matt, any missed opportunities? So obviously, you know, we obviously got a lot. But are there any that you sort of the one that got away, and you know, how do you dust yourself off if you do miss one?
There's always going to be missed horses, Corey, and if you don't accept that, then you'll be very depressed for the rest of your life. But you know, there's horses there that we loved that just were never in our budget. You know, we sat and watched them go through the ring and in awe, and just wished that we could take them home. But you know, as long as when they're running next year and you had in your notes that you really like the horse and the horse is a successful horse, then you know you're on the right trail. And so it's just about keeping records and keeping track.
Yep. And obviously Robbie's already touched on the fact that we're more than happy with what we purchased. And to be honest, we're all ecstatic. And the fact that we bought 9 yearlings, 6 of them are sold already, and there's not much left in the other 3 is probably testament to the fact that we bought well. But while we were up there, I did a little bit of scampering around. One morning I got to the sales complex early. I was waiting for the boys to arrive, and I thought, you know, my role in social media, you know, I might go and ask some of the best judges in the game what they thought about the Griffith de Kock stable and how we were going. And I thought, you know, I'd have to ask them, but every single person was just happy to have a few words to say. So I'm going to show that now. So just bear with me for a second here while I share this up. And if we just watch this here. So some of the best judges in the game, and this is what they had to say about the Griffith de Kock team at the moment.
Promising. Global. On fire. Flying.
Exciting new partnership.
Progressive.
Integrity.
Energetic. Outstanding.
Diverse.
Big future. 2 words.
Proactive.
Professional.
Pulsating.
Elite strike rate.
It's a rejuvenated stable, and I think they're flying.
So I think that it goes without saying that that's a pretty big, you know, I found their willingness to say those words and give me information was brilliant. What I should have done is held my phone the opposite way so it didn't have the black strips down the side. But
G'day everyone, Robbie Griffiths here with the video edition for Griffiths Racing Stable.
Bear with me, guys. I've lost. Can you guys all see? What can you see at the moment? What can you see?
I can
Nothing.
See
Apologies, guys.
I can
Can you see the screen? See the screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, I lost it all for a second, so I do apologise to our guests. I've got 2 or 3 screens going at once, so we'll move on to the next bit. But that, yeah, I mean, that was something I wanted to show people because it's pretty exciting for everyone to have, you know, judges of that caliber all speaking about the stable, and that was a consistent theme throughout the week. People coming up and, you know, I'd walk around in my Griffith de Kock hat and people would ask, you know, what's my role there? And you must be really excited to be working with Matt and Robbie because they're going so well. And Jack, you would agree with that was a common theme for us walking around the sales complex.
Absolutely. Everyone was commenting, Corey, and everyone's just happy that we're on the rise and that, you know, it's so progressive.
And Robbie and Matt, so I'll start with yourself, Robbie. Obviously, work, but there are some fun parts. So you can see yourself down the bottom right, getting your fanboy moment with Billy Slater. You know, you've got the photo there with the Highland Reel after the hammer dropped, you know, the golf day, a few drinks in your bar back at home, and obviously up there with Jerry Harvey. There are fun parts to the sale. And I guess, you know, what is the glitz and glamour of this sale?
Oh, look, Gold Coast is very much like that. The weather lends itself very much to having the opportunity to get out on the golf course, which was what Widden did the day after the sales concluded. They have a annual golf day. So luckily, Matt's a great player and carried the other three guys that couldn't play at all. So thanks to Matt. And then we were fortunate enough that Jerry spent some time with us having a beer after the horses were inspected, which was kind of Jerry. So the climate's very good for that, which was great. Most of the vendors are good enough to do that. So that's the one thing good about the Magic Millions versus some of the sales that in other areas. And Gold Coast in January is good to do that, you know. So yeah, so there is some good parts to the Gold Coast for that reason, for sure, Corey.
And Matt, your first time up there, as it was my first time as well, what was it that sort of, you know, the concentration of all the main people in the industry obviously is quite exciting, but what were your thoughts on the sale comparatively to other sales, and I guess an Australian sale? How did you find it here compared to other countries?
It's definitely right up there with some of the top sales that I've been to around the world. It's I found it really intense though, and really competitive. I mean, even with COVID and there was not as many people there as there would have been in the previous year, so I've heard, I still found that, you know, there's a lot of people on the same horses and it was very intense.
Yep. And any exciting new sires that you saw? Obviously Highland Reel, because you bought one. Obviously American Pharoah, you're a big rap for, but any exciting new sires that you saw at the sales that probably weren't on your radar before?
Yeah, like you said, those two are exciting. And then Al Manzor, we attempted to bid on that. I think we started the bidding. That's as close as we got. The horses that I saw by him look like my type of horses, you know, that middle distance classic type, and they look like really strong, nice horses. So hopefully in the future I can get my hands on one of them.
Yeah, and Robbie, creating partnerships is also part of, obviously when you go to the Gold Coast, because everyone in the industry is in one place, it gives you the opportunity to sit down for a lot of business dinners as well, like you mentioned. But how important is creating partnerships? And I guess, you know, I know you can't give away all your trade secrets, but, you know, how busy was the stable in terms of meeting with prominent people in the industry to look at the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes partnerships can just happen on the fly, especially at a sale. Like we would have loved to, you look at Billy Slater there, we would have loved to have bought that horse for underbidder. We would have loved to have had probably a little bit more time up our sleeve to, you know, probably sit down and buy him and maybe speak to the Storm sponsors, and being the last crop of the Reduced Choice colts, and maybe lift our budget to 500,000. We went to 400, and you know, maybe 10 of the sponsors at 50,000 a piece, and then you got, you know, they call him the Final Storm, run him in the Storm colours. That type of marketing with Race with Billy would have been an ideal type of a strategy, sort of thing, you know. And you'll probably find a lot of the guys in Storm will race him with the Hawks team that bought him. They outbid us. 425 was the next bid. So they're the sort of things that can happen on the fly at a sale when you fall in love with a yearling, and then the breeder that's selling the horse says, well, we love the horse too, and we want to keep our part of it. So we might keep a leg, and my friend wants to keep a leg, next minute half's done. And, you know, they're the sort of things that can happen at a sale as you progress through the buying the stages as you go. So they're the things that can happen, and you can create partnerships as you go through the buying session, you know. So they're the things that can happen. So they're the things that Matt and I sort of work through with yourself and Jack and the team at home as we bid, you know.
Yeah, and it's probably something I found interesting by being involved, that I guess the viewers at home would probably not see, is the amount of effort and time that goes into meeting with owners, meeting with, you know, prominent farms and things like that, where you sit down to talk about, you know, what your future plans are and those types of things, and they're nutted out over dinner and those types of, and there's so much time goes into that outside of just racing and the sales. So it's really, it's a well-oiled operation, and it's only in its infancy. So, still finding our feet as a group, but it's going quite well there. So what we'll move on to now is obviously the purchases. So we will stop sharing there so you can see those nice horses there, but we'll stop sharing and I'll reshare. Hopefully this works properly for me this time. So here we go here. So these are the purchases of the Griffith de Kock stable. So we'll just run through quickly the ones that are already sold, Robbie. So obviously the lot 13 was the So You Think colt out of Absolute Joy. Sold pretty much in 10 minutes. So if you wanted to sort of touch base on that as quickly as we can.
Yeah, well, we won't spend too much time on the ones sold because we'll talk about the Melbourne Premier sales soon. But so yeah, he's a beautiful colt, and he was very good value out of such a great Group 1 family. So any wonder he was sold quickly. The next filly, the Redoutes filly, she is an absolute bargain. I don't know why there's still a few little bits and pieces in her, because there's no more Redoutes choice. His average was 550,000. And she was 225. So to get a filly like that for half of the average, when there is there's about 10 fillies in that family that are going to start. For example, the filly that Rick Jamieson bought out of that same mare was $405,000 by Sebring. So you've got her mum. She's got two other half sisters.
Number 1, 2, 3.
The grandmother, her daughters, and other daughters. So that what I'm alluding to here, you've got about 10 fillies that are all going to great stallions. So the whole family is just growing at the rate of knots. So this filly, even if she never races, she's worth a lot more than we paid for her.
Yeah, and you can see there on the screen. Can you guys see the screen there okay with her walking?
So she's a fantastic investment. This is when people say a dual purpose residual value. This filly is an investment because you can't get any more Redoutes choice. And we had Selenia out of the family who's by Not a Single Doubt, and Not a Single Doubt is by Redoutes choice. So basically it's the same type of breeding, and we sold her as a broodmare for just under 600,000 at the broodmare sales. So. And it's out of the family that Mike's the cock trained Socrates, the epaulet, who's the same type of bloodlines. And he won 4 Group 1s in South Africa. So, it's such a family that goes so well with the Danehill lines through Redoutes choice. So she is a very good purchase, that one.
And there she is up on the screen. So we'll go back there. So I'll click out of that one. Jack, how much is left in her? Going pretty
very
quick.
Minimal, Corey. Very minimal. She was everyone was honest about her because there's only very few Redoutes left. So she's just an absolute bargain. And I would advise people to get on the phone as quickly as possible because there won't be many shares left in her.
Yeah, I remember you saying it was almost done this morning when I spoke to you. So, and yeah, residual value.
So
Absolutely.
the Zoustar got oversold because I remember a person talking to me about, I said, he's been oversold, you'll have to buy my share. And then apparently my share had already been sold, so he was oversold.
We sold 100. We sold 110% in the Zoustar, so that was good. Yep.
Highland Reels sold. The Shalar, go down to the Shalar, Corey, because
Highland Reels sold. So that was sold to Matt, who's going to go and win the Cox Plate with him.
Yep.
And then here we go. This one, Robbie. This is my favourite. This boy came out of the box, and well, basically, I was taking a share at whatever price it came down.
This is an amazing thing about sales. This is incredible because Matt and I love 2 Shalars, and the other one was like 382. Lot 382 is a beautiful Shalar that has no Group 1 winners on the page. Anyway, they're both beautiful colts, and we like this one's page better because he's got a really good Group 1 horse in Australia called Mentality, and the mother's produced a good horse called Bartley. So she's produced a Group 3 winner already, and a Group 1 winner is on the page. So we watched, Matt and I went up to follow 382 go through, thinking if we bet one of these Shalar colts, we'll be delighted to train either one. Well, the first one sold for 1.150 million. So we thought, well, we've got no hope of getting the next one. And he comes through for 200,000. So it's amazing how sales work. And he's a magnificent colt with a Group 1 page. And the next day, the stallion produces the Magic Millions winner. So he is an absolute fantastic horse with a Group 1 page, and the mare's already produced a Group 3 winner by the stallion at the moment that's produced the Magic Millions winner. So I think there's only minimal left in him, but Jack's the man for that. But there should be nothing in him really, but whatever's in him won't last long because he's of great value.
Yeah, it was 15%.
That's all it is. There you go, 15%. Yeah.
Yeah. So the funny story with that one, Robbie, is when the hemorrhage, I was telling you for a day, oh, buy that one, it's going to win the Magic Millions next year. And we kind of joked that Shalar hadn't had a big winner at that stage. And then the next day, the same cross with the triple Danzig in the same spots goes and wins the Magic Millions race. And we kind of, and also as an Omen bet, I was sitting in the room with Jack and I put a bet on that horse as well, purely because we just bought this one. And so it was a good day all around, and goes without saying that he's flying out the door. I'm pretty excited to see him hit the track, and I think he looks like an early type as well. So getting quick on that one. This one here, so there's lot 741 of Sebrings. You don't get Sebrings very, very cheaply, and we managed to somehow steal this one.
Yeah,
this was bizarre.
Well, it was bizarre because sometimes, when a stallion gets a bit older for some reason, the market goes off them because they've been around a while, and I don't know why. He's a champion stallion that's produced, so many great horses. And this horse here, he's a late foal, and maybe because he was a late foal, I don't know, but he had the type of, as I said earlier, Matt and I's taste buds are worth 250,000. And he went through for 40, and he's off a really good stud. Basil Nolan at Raheen Stud produces good horses, good boned horses. This guy's out of a Street Cry mare. Street Cry's a champion stallion. Out of the Second Dams Gabardon, who was a Ballesprit Group 2 quality mare. Out of a Scenic mare, and it's just a really good family. And being a late foal, he's got more improvement in him than a lot of the early foals at this sale. And a lot of the chestnut Sebring colts like Criterion and them are great horses. So this horse is an absolute bargain. I mean, he was worth a lot more. Like if I'd bought him if the hammer went down and Matt and I signed up for him at 240, everyone would probably be jumping into him saying he's a good buy. But for some reason at 40, he'd probably take longer to fill up because people will probably think that there's something wrong with him. But he's actually nothing wrong with him. He's a bargain,
Yeah, nice page as well. And Matt, we obviously set values before we go and bid on the horses as a team. And as Robbie said, this one was down for 150 to 200 based on when we went to the ready to run sales, and we picked up our Sebring there, and we liked a few Sebrings, and we had a lot of Sebrings on our short list. And I didn't even realize that Robbie was bidding next to me because he was doing those little sly bids that he does, and the hammer drops and it says, and it goes to Griffith de Kock Racing for $40,000. And it was pretty amazing, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a great buy. I mean, we bought two Sebrings this year, one off the ready to run for 60 grand, I think, and this one for 40 grand. So that's two Sebrings under 100 grand. Like Robbie says, he's a champion sire out of a Street Cry mare. He's got all the genetics and then the bloodlines to be a good horse. So I think that he's definitely worth taking a chance on at that price,
And Jack, he's been quite popular, but we haven't really done any promoting of him at the moment. How much is left in him?
There's just over 30%, Corey. Not much. It's just been the others have been taken up so well, and I guess because, as Robbie said, because he was a cheapie, people are sort of a bit standoffish, but there should be absolutely no reason for that. He's a belter, and I was talking to Basil today, actually, and he said, I shouldn't have let it go for that much. I should have bid you guys up, but he said, no, I'll put it in a good stable, so we were very lucky.
Yeah, he's a nice horse. The next one, the Exceed, already sold, completely gone. The American Pharaoh out of Sundays, all sold. Good purchase there. Matt, some of your clients involved in that one, I believe.
Yeah, nice to have some international support. We got some international clients. Coolmore's kept a share in him as well. They're confident in him and they're confident in us. So it's good to have some confidence from some high players, you know.
Yeah, and we also picked up another American Pharaoh colt. So I wanted to touch base with you on that. One of the questions, actually. So we've got a question here from Chas Preble. It says, I watched the APs breeze up at the Northern Hemisphere breezer sales, and they look like they're going to go off on the grass. What are your thoughts?
Oh, he's been very successful in Europe on the grass, and funny enough, in America as well. He's had some success on the grass too. So he's definitely a sire that can throw either or. They can be good on the turf and the dirt. When I was there and I was watching him, he had because we had a runner in the Kentucky Derby against him and the Belmont Stakes. So I was fortunate enough to be there and experience all that and work closely alongside American Pharaoh. He has the most smooth action that I've ever seen on a horse, probably besides Frankel. So I definitely am a strong believer that if American Pharaoh raced on the turf, he would have been just as successful himself, you know.
And Robbie, I know that you absolutely love this guy, and you had to have him. It was only a few lots after we'd already bought the other American Pharaoh, and you loved both of them. And you at the table, you were talking to Matt, should we buy two? You know, we've already got one. Should we buy the second one? And you just had to have him. So you said, look, if I've got to keep all of him, I will. But you bought him, and we've got owners coming in pretty quickly, and you're keeping a pretty big share, I believe.
Yeah, true. And as Matt and I both agreed, you can't have too much of a good thing. And the American Pharaohs, we do believe, are going to be great racehorses because the information and the data coming from overseas is that they're going to be probably better. It's looking like they're going to be better turf horses than dirt horses, but they're outstanding on both surfaces. So, and it's interesting to note that James Bester is one of the best judges in world selection, and he was underbidder on that colt. He absolutely loved him, and I love it when you're bidding against great judges like that because it just really endorses what Matt and I loved about that colt, you know. So so that makes us really happy that we loved him. We loved both colts, and we thought we might not be able to afford both, but when he fell into that price bracket, we thought it's too cheap to leave him there. So we're grabbing him. And I love Lars Zagaleta. Lee Friedman trained him. He was a terrific horse, and he was just like that, grey in colour. And he was a terrific Group 1 performer when Lee trained him in Victoria. So, yeah, we're looking forward to having both of those horses in the stable. And, yeah, he's a great colt.
Yeah, Corey, another interesting thing just before we go on there is that Frosted is flying in Australia, and he was a dirt horse by a dirt sire in Tappet. And Frosted and American Pharaoh are from exactly the same generation. They raced in all the 3-year-old races together. And American Pharaoh was a far superior animal. So there's no reason why he can't be successful, yeah.
And you were racing against American Pharaoh at one stage, Matt, is that correct?
Yeah, we had, like I said, we had a runner in the Derby who finished 8th, Mupta Hirsch, behind American Pharaoh. And then we kept him on for the Belmont Stakes where we ran 4th, Frosted ran 2nd, and American Pharaoh ran 1st. Yeah.
Ran 1st, yeah. And just out of interest, guys, I was checking my phone just before, and we now only have 5% left in the Shalar, I believe. So things are looking so. Any of these yearlings, get in quick because we're not even, you know, normally it's a marketing spiel, but Jack and I would love to say that we're just trying to amp it up, but we actually have not really had to try too hard to sell a lot of these, have we, Jack? People have just been clamoring.
No, exactly. It's been really, really good. We've had good inquiries and people are following through, and they're obviously following the stable and our social media and all platforms, and our success on the racetrack is showing. So, you know, it's a good place to be at the moment.
Yeah, I've just posted the first poll. So just a poll there so people can say what they enjoyed the most about following us at the Magic Millions, which of the horses available that most excites you. Obviously, what's available is changing rapidly as we go. We might move past that onto what's coming up. So as I said, I've got the Inglis cap on. Robbie, we're getting a marquee at the Inglis Premier.
Yes.
And we are intending on going quite strong at that sale once again. So if you could sort of expand on what would people need to do if they wanted to support the stable or get involved in the stable going towards that sale?
Yeah, good question, because what's going to help us and what we've sort of touched on in this webinar is that the more feedback that we get in terms of what people want to buy in terms of budget's the biggest key for us, and budget and so that Matt and I know what type of horses we're looking at, you know. So for example, up at the Magic Million sales there, when we knew that we had the cap buys at 150, 200, 250, we knew where to shop, you know. Otherwise there's no point us bidding on horses at 400,000 or 500,000 to Magic Million sales and then people coming home saying, we really love what you purchased, but they're not in the price range. So we've had a lot of people say to us thus far from the beginning of the year, they're waiting for Premier because there's a lot more Vobis horses at this sale. And when you're a Victorian-based owner and stable, there's a lot more Vobis bonuses at this sale. So budget and sires, if they have a preference, that also helps us. So when we're doing our inspections, if we know that people have requests for certain sires, whether it be a young sire, a proven sire and a budget, colt or a filly, we collate all that during our travels. So when Matt and I fall in love with a certain yearling, then we can say that suits that order. It makes life a lot easier for us. Is that fair, Matt?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and it is a little bit extra work, Matt, for you guys as trainers in terms of like Jack and I had the group of owners who committed before the sale, and we take them through the whole process. But it is a bit extra work for you. But how do you guys feel as trainers having the opportunity to actually show your owners the whole way through the process?
I think it's a great initiative, Corey, because a lot of the feedback I got back home from some guys when I started a syndicate, especially to attract new people into racing, was that they just felt a bit intimidated when joining because they didn't know much. So definitely sharing knowledge and sharing in the experience is very valuable to people that are joining the yard and joining racing. It's very important just to get people involved. You don't want to chase them away because they feel intimidated. So, anywhere that we can help with the sales and involve you guys in the process is exciting to us. We sometimes take it for granted that every day we work with these magnificent animals and how special it is to go and buy a horse. And then, 2 years, a year down the line, it's a Group 1 winner or Group 1 contestant. We take that for granted sometimes. So it just, it balances, it humbles us a bit when, people are coming to us and wanting to learn more. And we're only too happy to help.
Yeah, and I think from a sales perspective for Jack and I running the process, you could see that you guys are actually excited by that, and it's twofold. So some people are scared to ask for help because they are intimidated, like you mentioned, but then there are other people that say, well, I don't know, so what's the point of me having input? But ultimately, you guys will only ever buy horses that you love. But what the feedback can help us do is if there's two horses that you absolutely love, but a lot of people are wanting one sire and a lot of people are wanting another, it gives you a bit of a guide. So when you've got a short list of potentially 200 horses at the Magic Millions, it just helps narrow the short list. It doesn't make the train. So I guess for anyone watching and wondering how it might work with that is why would they listen to somebody like myself coming in as an owner or, over the trainer? That would never happen. The trainers still choose horses that they absolutely love and they would never waver from that. But it just gives us a bit of a base to go and look. And I thought the process the whole way through was really fluent, and the owners that did come through that were really positive. And I've just put the poll up there now about what people enjoyed. This one come back back to you, Robbie. The two things that were most popular for people were the feeling that they were involved and how accessible our stable was to follow while we're away.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's true what you said, Corey, before. You know, we have an order before the Magic Millions that we didn't fill because we couldn't find the right horse for that budget. You know, so we're not going to fill an order just because there's an order. We need to find a horse that Matt and I love to see at 4 a.m. every morning, that we have faith in, that we believe that he or she's going to be a successful horse down the track and be a potential group winner for their owners. So that particular order will be filled at the Melbourne Premier Sale because there'll be some beautiful horses at that sale. It's a great looking catalogue. So we'll endeavour to do that there. You know, so you're 100% right. We will only buy horses that we believe we can see potential in, and but certainly getting feedback from everyone that supports us makes life a lot easier when having the shortlist. You know.
Yeah, I've just got a question come through, Robbie, that I'll ask now because it's just relevant to the page that's up there. But Steve Davis, so I'm guessing it is Steve that drops the hammer. So the answer may be yes, will come if you drop the hammer quicker, Steve. But are you going to the Tassie sale? But I'll expand on that, Robbie. If you could just explain, for example, the Karaka sale that just passed or is on at the moment, and the other sale. What are our plans? Obviously, Premier is our major one we're looking at right now, but we also will be attending every sale in some capacity.
Yeah, we'll attend every sale. We buy in Tassie every year. We bought the top lot at the Tassie sales last year. And we also bought a nice little filly by Magnus for 30,000 there also. So just digressing back to Premier for a second, we'll have the marquee there. So that way, that's a really good platform for everyone to congregate. So if Matt and I are busy doing our inspections, and then there'll be a time where we will make time to show everyone around. So they don't want to be intimidated by our workload. We'll well and truly make time to show everyone our process of what we like, so they can be part of that process. Getting back to the sales, we'll be at all the sales. We'll do Premier, we'll do Adelaide, we'll do Tassie, we'll do Easter. But most of the feedback we've had thus far, the budgets that suit most requests that we've had on our feedback is Premier, Adelaide, and Tasmania. Tasmania sales isn't a big sale, so it's a one-day sale. But Premier in Melbourne has quite a bit of work there because there's quite a few nice horses there, and there's a lot of Obus horses, so there's quite a few for Matt and I to look at. Peter Ford and Joey Ramsden will start looking at the farms early, so they'll do a lot of work for Matt and I to shorten that workload for us, and that'll help us in our endeavour to shorten the list so that we can concentrate on a shorter list to make life a bit easier for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier off air, Robbie, about the Inglis Classic being more down to the fact that of the COVID rules than anything else.
Yeah, well, it looks like we're going to turn our back on the Classic sale in Sydney because at this stage, the COVID rules looks as though we're going to have to do a 14-day stand down, you know, either side of it, which is going to rule us away from our stables for 28 days, which is just no good to us. And a lot of the horses at the Classic sale won't always have the Vobis bonuses. So it's probably easier for us to just turn our back on that one. But in saying that, there's so much video, there's so much good video that you can look at online now that if we fall in love with a page or a horse on video, there's enough good bloodstock agents that we can call upon to go through a process a bit like we did in New Zealand. Like we actually Matt and I bid on one in New Zealand that were underbidder on 2 days ago, a filly that we like by Holy Roman Emperor. As you know, we had Angelic Light that got the good Group 1 mare that we had, Angelic Light by Holy Roman Emperor. But Tiarco Racing outbidders, as David Ellis does in most cases. But we went through that process over there with just one horse. So if we find something that we like at the Classic sale, we can still do that remotely, as we can do these days, because that's been improved so much during the COVID timeframe. But we're not going to physically be at that sale because it's just too restrictive on our day-to-day business. So we will be concentrating on English Premier.
Yeah, and I've just for those that haven't voted yet, I've got a poll up on the screen. It's overwhelming at this stage that the English Premier is our most popular, which a lot of our survey results has shown that our customers and our clients at the moment do love that, and we're trying our best as a stable to do what's best for our current clientele, but also, we're looking to bring new clientele into the stable. So, Jack, what's the best way for somebody who might be watching and has never been involved before? What's the best way to get involved in the stable?
The best way, Corey, is to contact yourself or I. Obviously, Robbie and Matthew are flat out with the, day-to-day activities in the racing yards and that sort of thing. And, just give us a tickle and let us know what you're looking for. And we can certainly give you advice and ask Robbie and Matthew anything if we need their opinion on stuff. So, look, it's just a matter of contacting us via email and phone, Corey, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of questions here, Matt, which you'll be able to answer. First one's from Chas Preble, which says, is there a possibility of Joey being further involved with the partnership? And then David Campsell says, could you help us understand what role Peter and the others perform within the GDK team? So obviously Peter's the bloodstock agent and Joey helped with that, but if you could sort of expand more on, their involvement and whether Joey would be involved further going forward.
Are you asking me or Robbie?
I asked Matt, but either way, Robbie, you're the head man, and then Matt can sort of maybe talk about the connection with Joey in the past.
I'll expand on Peter firstly. Peter's had a lot of experience in all facets of horse husbandry, as his family were the first ship horses for years overseas. And Peter's flown a lot of horses overseas, so he's had a lot of general bloodstock skills, and he's worked with me for years on the ground. But he's also very well skilled when it comes to bloodstock analysis. So if I'm interstate, for example, and pick out a really nice horse, and I'm working solo, it might be the Tassie sale, working by myself, and I might ask him to look at a pedigree. He's very good at pedigree analysis as well as bloodstock analysis. So he's very much an all-rounder. So in the Magic Millions case, as we mentioned earlier, we sent Peter and Joey one way and Matt and I another way so we could shorten the workload. So we can use Peter in many formats. So that's how Peter is utilised in our business as an all-rounder, both on confirmation to help lessen the workload when there's big volumes of horses. The final decision comes back to what Matt and I want to train. So we make the final decisions on what we bid on. And also he's very good on pedigree analysis. And as you know, he's fantastic on broodmares, etc., as he bought Black Caviar's mother and so on. In terms of Joey, Matt can elaborate more so on his background, but as we know, he's trained 46 Group 1 winners in South Africa. He's a champion at his craft. And I think it's fair to say we would love to have him more involved in our business moving forward. So if the business has an element there to grow with the success, we would like to have him as a more permanent part of our business model, because anyone with that amount of wealth of knowledge would be a great man to have on our team more permanently. But Matt can tell you more about his success because they've been great friends for a long time.
Yeah. So I'll let you expand on that, Matt, before we move to the next bit. But yeah, it was quite exciting to not only have Joey, but also Steph, his partner, who's worked with Inglis before and is quite a good horsewoman herself. And obviously then your partner, Monique, and Shirani, and it was all a big team, wasn't it? But I guess Joey's background, how that came about.
Yeah, well, Joey, he's, as you guys have all mentioned, he's had a lot of success. And interestingly enough, he won our biggest Group 1 race in South Africa with a horse that he purchased in Australia by Lonhro. So, and he's worked here in the beginning of his career. He's English born. He's worked in England, and obviously spent most of his life training in South Africa with a lot of success. Every year he has a good horse winning a Group 1, which he picked for and purchased for a good price. So he's got a fantastic eye for a horse, and I've had a lot of experience working with him because his yard was in Cape Town. We were in Johannesburg, and we often shipped horses between the two yards. He's had a winner in Dubai on World Cup nights, which he trained himself for Variety Club. He won the Godolphin Mile. So he's almost overqualified for any role that he can fill other than a trainer. He's got a fantastic CV, and to have him, a part of the team is awesome. And we really look forward to the future.
Yeah, and I'll just one more question here for you as well, Matt. As you look at, so from Daniel Guthrie, as you look at so many horses at a sale and also in the pre-sales, what catches your eye first? Do you look for a horse with a good walk, or is it the breeding first?
I always try not to look at the page first, because it can throw you off sometimes. If you look at the page and it's out of a mare that you trained or a stallion that you trained, you always look at them with a kinder eye. So I try to look at them as a blank canvas first. But definitely the first thing that catches your eye is obviously as the horse walks out the box, how he or she walks out the box. If they walk out the box with some good enthusiasm and have a bit of a presence about them, it's always important. They got to hit you right in the guts. You got to really love the horse. And then obviously after that, you start getting very analytical on their conformation and, the length and depth of all different aspects of their body. And then obviously looking at their pedigree and analyzing that too.
Yeah, and I guess I'd never experienced that sort of, you hear trainers talk about a horse has a presence when they come out of their box. And I'd never really experienced that until I came around inspecting with you guys. And when the Highland Reel popped out of the box, straight away you could see he's present. When the two American Pharaohs came out of the box, straight away there's a presence, and you can't explain it, but you just, all of us at once go, that's a nice horse. So I guess that's, that does grab you. And with a stable update. So Robbie, a good winner on Saturday with King Magnus. That's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He so deserved that victory because he's been knocking on the door of winning without having the luxury of doing so, probably due to a few impatient rides. But Lockie was really good on Saturday. That horse travels so smoothly that it's quite easy to be impatient on him. And to his credit, Lockie, he was much more patient on Saturday and got the right result. So it was great for him and us and the owners. And King Magnus was awarded the win that he's been waiting to get. So it was very good.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been winning so much lately. I'm not sure, I've got some sound coming through there. But yeah, you've been winning so often lately that, sometimes we can take it for granted that city winners are actually quite difficult to come across. So, that it's not every day that you get city winners for every owner. And we've been lucky as a stable to be giving a few of those lately.
Yeah, no, you never take them for granted. They're not easy to get, but he's a solid racehorse that has a go every time. And so he's pulled up well, and Matt's really happy with him. So we're optimistic that we can do it again on Feb 13 at Flemington, give him 3 weeks between runs and stretch him up another 100 metres. He's out of a Carnegie mare, and he's full is Inferential Girl, and she can run over 2,000 metres. You've seen her stamina and the data that Matt collects from both him and his sister on his heart rates and all the analytical data that's been collected on him along the way. It says that he's strong, and that's how he's bred, with Carnegie being an Arc de Triomphe winner. And so we're going to stretch him up another 100 metres in 3 weeks. And the way he handled going up to the 1,500 on Saturday, Matt and I both think that, there's a chance that we can hopefully win again at Flemington. So let's hope so.
Yeah, and Matt, I guess upcoming runners other than King Magnus, which we've just spoken about, but what other upcoming runners that you're excited about coming up in the next week?
Yeah, we got Hasseltop running on Saturday. He's a very talented horse, as you all know. He was a little bit unlucky last time. He got stuck on the fence. So he's probably a winner without a penalty, and he's come through that run in good order, and hopefully he can produce the same kind of performance on Saturday. And then over the next week or so, we'll have a couple of 2-year-olds running. We've got a press statement that's he's been declared for 2 days. He's been declared for tomorrow and Friday. We'll make a decision on him when he runs, but he looks like a nice horse. And then Tempest Charm runs next Saturday. She's a really smart 2-year-old filly as well. So definitely in the next week or so, there's a couple of nice ones coming out.
Yeah, and Robbie, one of those 2-year-olds, I was speaking earlier to Dylan Shirley, who's also asked our next question, but he's actually one of our owners of Daily Bugle, and he's pretty excited. He actually texted me this morning to say, hey, he's nominated for and accepted for a couple of races. Which one should I bet on? I guess it's a question for you, and a shout out to Dylan as well and his couple of mates that are in that horse. They're in for a bit of success. I think he's a nice horse.
Yeah, he's a very nice horse, and Press Statement being a Group 1 mile winner, and he's out of a family that can really run a staying trip, and he's half won a very good 3-year-old 2,000 metre race. So we've never, even though he's won 800 metre trial events, Matt and I have never thought of him as a speed horse. So we didn't really want to kick him off in the hustle and bustle of the Blue Diamond 1,000 metre races and so on. So we looked at this race tomorrow night over 1,200, and there's 1,100 metre at Werribee on Friday. So we're going to work that out in the morning. It's hard to do form on the 2-year-old races at the moment. We're looking at trial form and trying to get some sort of a lead. The Kieran Maher horse ran well at Flemington. The Toronado horse at Hayes is a half to Trust in August and the Group 1 Stallion. So, but our horse, he showed good talent. He runs really well, and we think that he'll give a great sight no matter where he steps out. So we think that he'll give us a great run at Pakenham if we run him tomorrow night, or if we elect to go to Werribee on Friday. Wherever he goes, he'll give us a great run. It's just hard to know what we're up against.
Yeah, and the final question there is, Dylan just asked whether we're looking at ready-to-run sales, either Australia or New Zealand.
Yeah, we will be. Definitely. They'll sort of probably happen a little bit naturally down the track now because it's yearling sale time. But we're not going to take anything off the radar for the stable now. We're going to have a pretty holistic approach sort of moving forward. We're going to keep all options open, whether it be international horses, whether it be stayers from Europe if the price is right, whether it be any sort of international horses, whether it be tried horses, breeze up horses, yearling sales through the buying bench at the moment. So we'd like to have a pretty open mind, as long as we can get successful racehorses for our stable followers. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and Matt, I've got one final question again. So Will Setterino's jumped in here, and he says, "Do you think Don't Tell the Boss will get to the mile?"
I saw Will on the other day, and at this stage, I'd say she's probably a bit too quick for the mile. Robbie's worked with her a lot longer, so he is probably the better person to answer that question.
Over to you, Robbie.
Based on some of her runs in prior racing campaigns, especially, some of those Caulfield runs where she was unlucky, she ran out solid at that trip, probably on a slightly softer ground. Some of these grounds been a bit firm, and some of the firm tracks jarred her up a little bit. So we haven't trained her as solid to run those distances during the autumn. So I think it's more so, Will, a matter of how much we train her. I think if you look at her form card and see some of those races where Brett Preble rode her, where she ran places in, I think she could run the mile, but I don't think we're going to train her to run those distances. I think we'll keep her to the shorter trip. But her grandmother could run 2,000. She ran second when we trained her in the Group 1 Oaks over 2,000 metres, and she's very similar to her. So I think that if the ground was soft enough and we trained her for 1,600, she'd well and truly run the distance.
Yeah, my fiance's family will be happy that Brett got a mention there, Robbie, since he's the second cousin. Preble family there. But finally, to wrap up, Jack, I know you haven't had too much. We've been focused on the boys, but I had a note here to mention Carrier Buster and shares in Carrier Buster, but I actually believe you advertised a horse that had trialled and was for sale, and it's already sold today before we even got to the webinar. Is that right, or is there some left?
Yeah, sorry to burst your bubble there, but yeah, that was gone within an hour. So we're just a little bit hot in the sales ring at the moment, and people better start to jump in because yeah, that was literally put on, 2 hours ago, would you say, Corey, and already done. So
yeah, I thought
nice trialing.
I thought we timed that to promote it tonight, but I just got a text from you saying don't mention it, it's gone. So I was a bit confused. But just on that was quite a cheap horse. So that was 15,000 or something like that. If that's the sort of thing, if there are anyone watching that would like to get involved in a horse like that, for, small percentages and things like that. But maybe some of the horses that were bought at the Magic Millions aren't in your price range, then let Jack and I know, and we can put you on lists then. So if those horses do come up, we let you know first. So you get first option to come in. Never be scared to ask if there's a specific sort of price range you're interested in, because we are really trying to cater for everyone. And obviously, keep going back to the fact that the trainers will only ever buy horses that they love. But ultimately there are, different horses for different price ranges and different tastes. So always let Jack and I know, and we can always keep you on lists if there's nothing for you at the moment, because they are, like we said, flying out pretty quickly at the moment. So we thought we'd probably have some of the Magic Millions horses still left over, but they're, in a week's time, they might not be there based on how quickly they've gone. So next Magic Millions, we might have to buy 15 or 20 to Jack's dismay.
No, more horses in the stable, more chance of winning Group 1s, Corey.
So, all right, so I'll wrap up there. Once again, thanks, guys. Robbie's actually up on the Gold Coast still, so he gets back tomorrow. So, Robbie, back to reality and stable life tomorrow. So you've been in a good paddock up there, but time to come in for the next prep.
Yep.
And we thank you for joining us. And also, Matt, thanks for joining us once again. And thanks to all of our supporters. We obviously, can't keep putting these types of things on for people if nobody turns up, and we have great numbers again. So we thank you all for supporting the stable. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll hopefully have another one for you in the next month when we get close to the next sales.
Thanks, team. Thanks for everyone for supporting us. We really appreciate it. Can't do it without you. Thanks, team.
Cheers.
Thanks guys.